Hello, hello, hello. Assalamu alaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhair Ragale, Ni Hao, Chunashume, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Ola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, and a very amazing Khosh Amadi to everyone who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside the one and the only for today only, ladies and gentlemen, Shahzad Khan. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's time to rise and shine, wake and bake, get up and be more focused on what you wanted to do or probably what you were thinking about last night before sleeping, that these are the things which you wanted to achieve. Because every day when you wake up with a very positive mindset and these ambitions to fulfill, I think that's where you will actually find destiny in your life too as well, ladies and gentlemen. But before we indulge into any other type of conversation, we need to take a look at what's happening around the globe. Because parents tell you that, bete, please make sure that you read newspaper. Well, you do not certainly have to if you've got Shahzad Khan reading the news to you. Let's do it. Good morning. Asian Development Bank has assured Pakistan to continue to provide its financial and technical expertise in all areas, including energy sector. American Ambassador David Hale has met with Federation of Pakistan Chambers of Commerce and Industry President Zubair Tufail and senior FPCCI leadership on December 19th to discuss American-Pakistani commercial relations. Arrangements are being finalized to celebrate 142nd birthday of Father of the Nation, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, in a befitting manner. Moving on, John Florence has clinched the 2017 World Surf League title at the Billabong Pipe Masters, making him the first male surfer since the late Andy Irons to successfully defend a maiden world title. Congratulations, John. Moving on towards some weather updates, where mainly cold and dry weather is expected in most parts of the country during next 24 hours. According to Met Office, rain, thunderstorm with snowfall over the hills is expected at scattered places in Malakand, Hazara and Rawalpindi divisions. Well, this is it for the top stories. Time now to move on towards a public service message. Let's see what do we have in the box today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so our public service message is going to be in line with what we have to discuss today. It is a very important day. Today is 20th of December. And back in 2005, there was something which was adopted as a global movement, and people are working on that too as well. But within the public service messages premise, what I'm going to say over here is that quite a lot of times, when we eat, we do not think that, how many dishes we are cooking, or, whenever, for example, even in the morning in winters, when we take a shower, we want hot water too as well, and we just make sure that we stay over there because it's very comfortable. Now, as a matter of fact, for all those people who belong to that segment of the society where even if, there's plenty of food for them, there's plenty of clean drinking water for them, everything's plenty, why don't we have a concept of sharing as well, that, we go out, we ask people whether you need anything, or if there's anything which is just lying within their refrigerators. I think what we need to do is that we need to step up in the game, we need to play our role, we need to give back to the society and start sharing. And once we'll start sharing, I think that there'll be this cohesion in between the both segments of the society, and we can be inclusive, and that'll be very helpful for all those people. And then for all those Muslims who are out there, you're going to be very pious, Allah's going to bless you for that. And for all those other people, whatever helps you, you can do that. Let's start sharing. This is what our public service message is. And now moving on to what we want to talk about. So back in 2005, it was adopted that on 20th December, we are going to observe International Solidarity Day. Now, whenever we talk about solidarity, since there were earlier Millennium Development Goals and then SDGs, and when we talk about the SDGs is all about people and planet, and then it's actually underpinned by human rights too as well. And when it is underpinned by human rights, as we move on, what we need to do is that the global cooperation or the global harmonization is required so that we lift people out of poverty, we eradicate poverty, and this is one of the SDGs as well. So International Solidarity Day and then SDGs, they are interlinked because of the fact that when we talk about all the 17 SDGs, it's about education, it's about poverty eradication, it's about health, it's about clean drinking water. But is it happening? Where are we over here in Pakistan and where are we globally? That's what we are going to discuss. And solidarity as itself, I think everybody needs to work in this direction to make this world a better place. And for that particular reason, you know, I've been joined by some very apt guests over here who have been to the show earlier too as well, but they are obviously over here in a very different capacity today. And that's what we were discussing earlier. So on my right-hand side, I've been joined by somebody who's an activist and a gender expert, a very pretty lady, Miss Dr. Rakshanda Parveen. Hello, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for
inviting. Thank you very much for joining us early in the morning. I know it's very hard at times, but thank you very much once again. And this lady who's actually right next to Miss Dr. Rakshanda Parveen is a lawyer and a human rights defender, flew in from across the borders as well. You know, she's very tired and very sleepy, but still, quite a lot of respect to you, Miss Rubab Mehdi Rizvi. Hello, assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much. You're not sleepy anymore, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. And last but not the least, we've been joined by an educationist who is none other than Mr. Ataur Rahman Khilji. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Wash Malay. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's get started with you, Miss Dr. Rakshanda Parveen Saiba. How do you see the importance of this day where we say that, you know, International Solidarity Day and we need to get people out of that sector or that segment of poverty? Do you think that we can actually achieve it globally, even if we talk about SDGs?
It's an essential reminder, and UN did a very right thing way back in 2005 to, you know, dedicate a day in the year that it has to be the Solidarity Day, because this world is full of differences, and we see some extreme forms of differences as terrorism and you know, wars, where people who are unarmed and people who are the weakest in the society, like children, you can see in many different countries, they suffer. So it is very important to continuously remind us. Us means, you know, all the people who can, as you said in your introduction, some people have the responsibility to pay back to the community.
Exactly.
So first of all, it is an essential reminder whether we can achieve sustainable development goals, which is in the agenda of development, and it has to be achieved by 2030. It all depends on our intention. It is very important, because if we don't identify the problem and if we don't put it on the priority list, it can never be achieved. You talked about SDGs and you talked about different priorities, but let me you know, share this thing that all these 17 SDGs cannot be achieved if one particular SDG, that is about gender equality, is not, you know, considered important. It is the pivot. So this has to be the common denominator of all rest of the sustainable development goals.
It is indeed, and you're very right when you say that, you know, we have to actually achieve gender equality, and it is the denominator of that, because I think International Solidarity Day, in my perception, is about celebrating diversity too as well. So, Mr. Bob, how do you think that we can celebrate diversity when we do not even have gender equality within our own country? I'm sorry to say that.
Well, I'm, despite my sleep, I'm a lot more optimistic about things. Optimistic, and you know, I think as far as if that is a Pakistan-specific question, I do share your concern in the sense that when it comes to the gender gap and when it comes to celebrating and observing these days, I feel that it has to be beyond awareness.
All right.
We cannot simply turn human beings into statistics. We cannot simply keep counting the number of women who get beaten, the number of women who get abused. We cannot turn human beings into statistics.
Right.
What we are talking about and what we need to be done is on-ground presence.
Okay.
On-ground presence by the people who claim to speak for the women How many rehabilitation centers do we have? How many inspiring stories do we have? As far as the gender, I think this is what I said in the last program as well, that we are far from, there's of course a lot of room for improvement. But you know, in Balochistan, I was there recently, they have a female judge, we've had a woman prime minister. There is a lot of acceptability for women who are able. There is nothing stopping you from coming forward if you have it in yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not just going to talk about men and women over here. I'm even going to talk about transgender community too as well.
Okay.
You know, this is
Yes.
where we talk about equality, and this is how we need to achieve it too as well. I'll come back to the point, but let's see what Mr. Khilji has to say about today. You know, how would you love to highlight the importance of International Solidarity Day, where the globe actually needs to come together and be harmonized so that all of us can actually work.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. International Solidarity Day, it is having a message for us, it is having a lesson for us that we should promote interfaith harmony. First of all, we should promote cohesion within the country. And after that, we should work for solidarity among different states, among different nations. And when we talk in respect of cohesion within the society, definitely in each society, in each country, we are having different races, we are having people who speak different languages, they are having different traditional backgrounds, they are having different cultures. But still, this is the beauty of the state, this is the beauty of a nation. When it is having multi-cultures, when it is having multi-languages. So in our country, we are, alhamdulillah, we are having this beauty. And we should try to, if there are some, definitely there may be some differences, and it is not only the case with Pakistan. In each country, different groups or different areas, they may be having some differences. For example, even in Spain recently, they are facing the problem of Catalan independence. So still, in each country, they may face some problems. But the way is to overcome such problems in a positive manner, in a democratic manner. And we should give importance to the view of the people. We should promote unity among the people. We should promote unity among the provinces.
I mean, it's very, I'm sorry, Khilji Saab, that, you know, I have to barge in, but it's very easy to say that, you know, we need cohesion, we need to, you know, do this and do that. Where are the real-time solutions? I mean, I'm going to refer to where Mr. Bab was actually saying that we need to see or look forward to on-ground realities too as well. What are the solutions? I mean, this is something, how do you think that we are going to get cohesion after, you know, since 1947 till 2017? Where's that cohesion? Why can't we see that?
The solution is very much simple. We are having the Constitution of 1973. It was passed unanimously by the Parliament of Pakistan. All the members of the Assembly belonging to all the parts of the country, they unanimously passed that Constitution. And that Constitution itself promotes cohesion. It itself promotes unity. So if we implement the Constitution of 1973 in letter and spirit, I think it would promote it is a very simple way. And then we are having religious values, we are having traditional values. So if we follow those values, then I don't think that there is any hindrance in promoting cohesion.
Let's see what Mr. Bab has to say about it, since she's a law expert too. So go on. Let's see.
Well, I do share your concerns, and I think the answer to that is quite simply that the survival of Pakistan, and Pakistan has been celebrated as a majority of minorities. So despite all the external pressures that it has faced, and in terms of internally also, unfortunately, there is a nihilist ideology that has been promoted. But despite that, I see hope in Pakistan, and I see its survival as being the majority of minorities. It has a lot of diversity in it, and the resilience of the people, the resilience of fighting. But see, like we recently had a Quetta church blast. That attack in itself was an attack on the heart and soul of Islam, on the heart and soul of Pakistan. Yet, the positive way, there is, I'm not trying to spin it, but why doesn't anyone see that the Deputy Commissioner himself was picking up the people?
Exactly.
400 Christians got saved. So despite the external pressures that Pakistan faces, and you know, Shehzad, one of the things that I also have, you know, being a human rights defender, one of the things that is happening throughout the world is it's economy over ethics. What we really need is, we've had corporate wars.
Yeah.
We need spin doctors. We need people. Why can't we have corporate peace?
No, but
Why can't we?
Yeah.
I'm just trying
Sure.
to very quickly finish what I'm trying to say, that the countries need to be linked properly in a corporate manner, to an extent that their interests profit with each other. In Pakistan in particular, what I've noticed is that whatever we tend to use, whatever we tend to raise, gets used for an anti-agenda. And human rights should never be politicized. This is my concern, that when that the survival of Pakistan, the survival of the neighboring countries, they should be corporately linked to each other, where the economy, where they benefit from each other's economy, where they talk about poverty elevation, and where the human rights do not get politicized and used.
You know, well, I'm sorry, but I don't think that this is actually happening in my life too as well, because then it's continent to continent, and then one country is not really friends with the other one, and then there are block changes, and then there's politics. So I think what we need to do is we need to stick to the topic too as well. So International Solidarity Day, obviously, you know, you said that, you know, we need to talk about gender equality, first things first. So since I was asking Khalji Saab, you know, how to get cohesion and everything else, what is your idea of gender equality?
My idea of gender equality is is about being equal. Now, being equal is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not about, you know, equality between two sexes.
Yeah.
It also includes the consideration of socioeconomic strata within the society and cultures. But we talked about hope, which is very good thing, and hope keeps us alive.
Yeah.
But it is very important that while remaining optimistic, we take into account the facts. And the fact is that at the moment, according to the reports which are considered authentic, Pakistan is the second worst country on gender equality out of 144 countries in the world. And how? So this is not a sweeping statement from emotional activists. It is mathematically calculated. You look at the performance of a country in political participation, in literacy, education, and health.
Yeah.
So that's how it's calculated. So it's very scientific data that is taken into account. It's not like, you know,
So now
it's
how
not
do we improve,
subjective.
you know,
No,
because
yeah,
hope's there.
coming to the solution. So I beg to differ that there is not an easy solution, and there is not a singular solution. And politics is one of the determinants, an important player in the solution, because ultimately you and me, well, we can contribute to the society, but our level and area of influence is not that much. I mean, yours is more because you are an anchor.
Thank you very much for saying that. That makes me happy.
But state has the biggest responsibility, and it has to be on the priority agenda. So you have to look at the budgets, that how much you allocate towards the development of people.
All right.
Towards the development of people. So that is very important. It's about human development. And let's, you know, rise above, because we are celebrating actually International Day of Solidarity. So it's not like that at who saved Christians or Muslims. First of all, human beings are saved.
Yeah.
Then Pakistanis are saved. And then comes their different identities, which is related to their faith, religion, or any other identity. And if our law, and they do actually, law enforcing agencies and forces and services and management, if they, when they help people, they are actually fulfilling their duty. First of all, we should, I mean, we respect that they're dutiful, but it should not be seen as something, oh, they did it. They have to do it. So we have to give respect to people of Pakistan and people of any other country. We have to, we may not agree with everyone's view, but we have to be democratic. We have to listen to each other. We have to respect each other's view, giving a space and, you know, coexistence.
And that's why I initially, even at the start of the show, I mentioned that the SDG agenda is basically underpinned by human rights. It's not Muslim rights, it's not Christian rights, it's not Jews' rights. So we are all humans in the first place, and then we obviously talk about anything else. But humans are important to this planet and to this world, and that's what we are talking about, how to eradicate poverty all around the globe. This is what International Solidarity Day for today or this year is actually existing, and that's what we were talking about. We need to go for a short break. When you guys are going to come back, I think this day, in my another perception, is actually to remind the governments about their international agreements which they made, and are they even following them or not. Let's take a break. When you come back, we'll ask our law expert over here. Good morning.
The Badshai Mosque, or the Royal Mosque in Lahore, commissioned by the sixth Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in 1671 and completed in 1673, is the second largest mosque in Pakistan and South Asia and the fifth largest mosque in the world. Epitomizing the beauty, passion and grandeur of the Mughal era. It is Lahore's most famous landmark and a major tourist attraction. Capable of accommodating 5,000 worshippers in its main prayer hall and a further 95,000 in its courtyard, it remains the largest mosque in the world. From 1673 to 1986, a period of 313 years.
right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for everybody who just got tuned into PTV World. You watching World this morning alongside Shazad Khan. Today we are observing and celebrating International Solidarity Day, which is on 20th of December. I've been joined by Dr. Akshanda Parveen, who's an activist, gender expert. We have been joined by Mr. Bob Mehdi Rizvi, who's a lawyer and a human rights defender, and Mr. Ataur Rahman Khilji, who's an educationist. But before going towards the break, there was one thing which I wanted you to ask, or probably, we need to make people aware of this fact too as well. But other than that, what was very important was that this is the day where we actually remind the governments about their international agreements which they made, and where are they in those terms as well. Are we going to do you think that we are going to fulfill all of those SDGs as well by 2030 or not? Because if we have pledged to do it, I think what we need to do is we need to put in more effort as well. So, Mr. Bob, what's your take on this one?
Well, yes, thank you, Shazad. I absolutely, what we were saying earlier, and this is what I strongly believe, that human rights, when we talk about, obviously Pakistan is a signatory to religious freedom, on gender empowerment and all that, but what we were talking about was the on-ground presence. What we should be talking about is poverty elevation. What we should be talking about is not merely turning women into statistics, but actually what are the steps. For example, water, nutrition for the women. Ravi and Sutlej are going dry. The women are carrying 20 kg water on their heads even today. What is it that is being done on the issues that are being faced by the mainstream? And that is my concern. And what I had said earlier as well in the program was precisely, like I said, that Pakistan's survival, we are signatory to Article 18, we are signatory to religious freedom. It's about not taking away the identity of the people, but celebrating their identities, celebrating their diversities. So the act that happened in Quetta, and when you see the different religious persuasions standing up with each other, that is the resilience of the country in which I see hope. Now the government obviously needs to put their acts together. Unfortunately, you see the resilience of Balochistan. I recently attended an event where it was called the Voice of Balochistan, but it was the youth from Punjab, Sindh, all the different provinces. So that was definitely a step forward, and that we saw all the youth going beyond this provincial thinking, coming together to see how they can build new schools, how they can build new universities, how they can improve their human resource. Yet, when you look at the government on the corruption index, Balochistan is the highest. So you see, something needs to be done on the corruption, unfortunately, by the parliamentarians, not just by the parliamentarians, but the
I think I need a verbal disclaimer over here. Ladies and gentlemen, these are opinions of Mr. Bob.
Okay.
Not mine.
So something needs to be, because why Pakistan was not made for 21 families?
No.
Where is the voice of the ordinary people? And when we even speak about gender equality, when we speak about, where is the space for the ordinary man? We need to be seeing ordinary, you see, in a simple way, we cannot function up until the time we have proper working institutions, we have corporate ties, we have peace, and up until the time that we see an ordinary man in the judiciary, we see ordinary people in the parliament, and we see the issues of the ordinary people. You see, Shazad, very, very briefly, I was saying that just last week, I was preventing a woman from being snatched away from her child.
All right.
The child was being snatched away from her. And we were struggling to find as to where we put her, where we find accommodation for her. This is where we are in reality. People can go on making all the statistics that they want. People can go on calling the independent activists emotional, but the fact of the matter is, all you've been doing is counting. Where are the rehabilitation centers?
I think
where are the refuge?
I think you've made a point over here, because even last time when I went to England, I actually got to witness that there was a divorce going on in between a husband and wife. and then there were separate places for the wife to be kept as well. So these facilitations are definitely required, but since we are running short of time, I definitely want to make a point about International Solidarity Day, which is to eradicate poverty. Now, for example, Khilji Sahab, I'm going to move on to you over here, since you've worked in Balochistan too as well. So we are not talking about Balochistan, we're not talking about Sindh, we're not talking about KPK, not Gilgit-Baltistan or Punjab.
Or
It's very
FATA.
yeah, or FATA. So this is something which we need to keep in mind, that we are Pakistanis, and I think that with empathy, with patience, and with tolerance, quite a lot of these things can be managed. But how do you think that poverty can be eradicated when people are not even willing to work?
Poverty alleviation, as we all know that it is included in the SDGs, it was also included in the MDGs. Uh, Basically, as we all know that it is the responsibility of the government to frame the policies and then to implement those policies. It is the responsibility of the executive, which is also the government. First of all, if we talk in respect of the overall budget, definitely after the NFC award, all the provinces, they are getting enough and adequate funds. But again, the problem is that whether we are utilizing those funds in a proper manner. This is a very serious, and this is a very serious issue, and this is a very important question. The thing is that, like Madam said, we need to have the people who actually represent the wishes of the people, who actually represent the downtrodden people in the assembly as well as in the other areas, which are especially the policy making areas. So if we are having such people, if we are successful in having such people in the policy making domain, definitely then it would work, and then it would give us positive results. Otherwise, as we know that human rights, they are inviolable rights.
No, but I think that we might have people from the downtrodden segment within the parliament and within the assembly too as well, but as soon as they enter, they change
defy their
segment of
class.
the
I would
society.
add another thing. A person from the downtrodden family or even from a middle class, he cannot even think of contesting the elections, because the amount that is required for contesting the election,
we have got a great
especially without the support of a main political party and without having adequate money,
Okay, that's fair. But
without
now
having
I know
family
that
background.
it's the states, it's the government's responsibility to fulfill and for poverty alleviation. How do you think that the community needs to work too as well? Because every time we say that oh, the government needs to do this or they need to do this, the parliamentarians need to do this, what do we need to do? Because for example, if you're just going to drive out, you're going to see hundreds of beggars on street as well. This is, I mean, I don't even agree to 29.5%. I think our people who actually live down the poverty line is probably 40 or 50% somewhere. Or we might be probably just 10 or 15% of people who can actually live, who can eat, and there's plenty to do that too as well. You can complete.
Definitely, people are also required to fulfill their responsibility, and for that purpose, they are required to be motivated and sensitized. And for that purpose, we are required to enhance the literacy rate. Unfortunately, the literacy rate in our country, it is not satisfactory. And if we compare this literacy rate even with our neighboring countries, it is something very much alarming that we are not having good literacy rate. So for sensitizing the people, for creating awareness among the people, it is imperative to increase the literacy rate. And when they would get the education, definitely they would be sensitized. And again, in this regard, the media can play an effective role, and media is already playing an effective role, because the people are having direct connection with the electronic media as well as
I
with
don't
the
know whether they're playing a good role or not, because when I go back home, all I can see my mother watching all of those morning shows where people are dancing or probably shohar ki dhulai or pata nahi. I don't think that it's education. Dr. Saiba, what do you have to say in these terms as well?
All I want to say that, again, today is the Solidarity Day, and we may, because you're talking about what we as people can do. So let's become an awakened dreamer today and think of and dream about not alleviating poverty, but eradicating poverty. And poverty eradication is linked with human rights and gender equality.
Exactly.
And to me, legal, social, political, and economic empowerment of not only women, but transgender men from any age group, from any socioeconomic strata, from any geographical setting, cannot be achieved when only few men, women, and other people, they make headline because of their performance in civil service or military or adventure sport or entertainment industry. It is like that, as Rubab already mentioned, that when ordinary people, you know, they can do whatever they want to do, provided it is not a crime.
Yes.
So, and that has to be, you know, executed through the parliament. And I'm sorry to say that parliament, with few exceptions aside, is not, it has failed to empathize with the common person. So this is very important, because ultimately state has to do something at the policy level, and all the obligations that our country has, like in terms of human rights or women rights or nutrition and food security, etc., etc., it has to be translated into policy frameworks, and there should be a budget that is allocated to it.
But Dr. Saib, I'm very sorry that, you know, I came up with this question now when we are actually left with 4 or 5 minutes of the show. I'm going to come back to you. But that is that, you know, in a country where you just mentioned that we do not even have access to fundamental rights.
Yes.
How do you think that we are going to achieve any kind of poverty alleviation?
That's
or
why I say
eradication?
that's the policy, that's the state.
Yeah.
You see, because state does not, you know, prevent anybody from thinking negatively or like that. But that shows the maturity, conscious level, and empathy level of the state.
So then that's something which people have to do. I mean, come on, how are we going to do that?
Invite policymakers and legislators and
I
ask
think
them.
we're going to do that the next year, Mr. Babu.
I'm just going to.
Sure.
I'm just going to waffle my way. I'm sorry. I'm obviously less lucid because, but I'm just going to very quickly say my points. See, it's small things. For example, street children. Count the number of children as opposed to the number of NGOs claiming to speak for them. Look at the on-ground presence.
Yeah.
We need a motivated bureaucracy that has their priorities straight. We need parliamentarians who actually speak up for the people. We need to be rehabilitating the widows and the orphans. A very easy way, carpet stitching, for example, can be introduced. It's a skill. Exactly. You give them 1,000 rupees, the return is 10,000. If you introduce them to the international market, the return is unimaginable. And one thing that I would like to say from your show is definitely that Pakistan itself is unfortunately persecuted when it comes to international forums.
Exactly.
I have been a peace activist. I believe in peace with India. However, India should, we've all seen the movie, I don't know if you've seen the movie, The Cancer Belt, and the eco-terrorism. Wow. Now that eco-terrorism, where you find pesticides, the Indian rice got banned in the EU because they use pesticides. We don't have that in Pakistan, but the same eco-terrorism is being used on Pakistan. Why is the water of Ravi and Sutlej drying? Why are the pesticides going in our waters? That has a lot to do with India, and I think all the people who speak for peace
or
solidarity, we want peace with India, but I think internationally, economy should not take over ethics, and I think it should be made obligatory on India to also honor the human rights of its neighbors, where they would be not attacking Pakistani government. They need to understand that they are attacking the poor people. Exactly. So it has to be beyond countries, and I think the United Nations has got to intervene in this.
Very well said, very well said. Khilji Sahab, any last remarks, please?
Definitely, it is the responsibility of all the nations and all the states to condemn theories like clash of civilizations, because these are not only dangerous but also fallacious. And definitely, if we want to overcome such negative tendencies, because all the nations, all the religions, all the civilizations, they promote good values in the society, and they promote human rights in the society. If we are not doing it, definitely it is not the fault of the religion, it is not the fault of the ethical values, it is our own human fault. So we should try to overcome this human fault, and we should all, it is the responsibility of all the nations definitely to work for promoting the human rights.
Exactly, very well said. Dr. Saiba, any closing remarks, please?
Again, I mean, remain an awakened dreamer and work towards the betterment of society, and that can only be achieved through empathy.
Amazing. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you very much for discussing. Thank you very much for making some very apt points too, ladies and gentlemen. But before wrapping up the show, there are a few things which I would love to mention over here, and those things are that I certainly do not want to be a member of the nation who actually rely on funds. I want to be one of those Pakistani who really want to strive and struggle and do something for their own country by their own selves and by their own people. And I think this is what solidarity will be eventually, because Mr. Bab very rightly said that, you know, people do not, or the globe does not come to us with the same fundamental rights which Pakistan might have in the global world. So I think what we need to do is we need to get together, first of all, so that we are in a position to actually ask for what we deserve or what our right is. Please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of World This Morning. On Twitter, it's World This Morning without a G. On Daily Motion and YouTube, it's World This Morning and World This Morning. The fabulous repeat is going to be at 11 p.m. Till the next time, look after yourselves and look out for Thursday. We've got something very special for tomorrow too. 1, 2, 3, good morning. Bye.